now that we got it fit, we just gotta clean up the housing, blow it out with some air, clean everything up, and install the Demon Eye. What we got for it? The XBT controller, and I believe it's the color morph setup that we went with for the LED. So take all this out. Need the backing for a little bit. Whew. Demon Eye. Just got from there. They already come fitted up on the bracket, but with our setup, we've got to change it and spin it around just to make it a little easier. Pretty much it just sits in there, stays low. It's not in the way because there's already a cutoff shield there, so it doesn't get seen. It doesn't get seen through the projector, the piece itself, and then once you turn it on, it lights up that whole unit, and it is quite nice light actually. So we're going to need some more epoxy made up. Do we need a gun for that stuff? We're out of the JB.
So the one headlight we use JB Weld because we got kicking around. The other headlight I'm going to use a 2-part epoxy Evercoat. It's used for body work. It's just a 2-part epoxy. Pretty well the same thing as JB Weld, just a little more expensive and a little more stronger. So he's going to use that. The good thing about the Evercoat is it uses a caulking gun, so there's no need for special tools.
And since we knew we were going to be running the Demon Eye through, made sure to leave enough opening to run your wires through, because that will be sticking out the entire back of the housing and then goes right to the controller. Nice braided line so it's protected, and you get all 4 little wires going right to the diode. So I'll set that down there for now. Let's see.
buy some more JB welds.
Yeah, well, that's alright.
Get it set, get it in place.
Yep, that's the biggest part.
Don't worry about that if it's empty.
Yeah, I think it is anyways. It's not quite, it's just that halfway and it's stuck. Nope, should not go any further. There.
So we're going to mix it up so it's evenly mixed and hardened. So basically what he's going to be doing now is just setting the projector in place. We'll JB weld it so it can dry. Then we'll get some more 2-part epoxy to finish off that. Won't be finished today anyways because the lights were bought at the U-pole as well. So they're going to need to be wet sanded and buffed, make them shine again.
Not that it needs it because it stays pretty still, but just enough on the demon eye that if there is any vibration on it, it will hold a little bit better. Get to it here. Pretty much the tension on the wire itself mostly holds it. So I can get it to stay still. Try to get everything as still as possible, weld being half quick. There we go. A little tension in the wire holds it back. There is another alternative to doing it quickly and holding in place is to use the JB Weld stick, which is a little bit better for just a quick hold, and then once it sets, then you can use more actual JB or any two-part epoxy just to hold it in place. But we're using what we got here available today. And if it works, it works.
The only bad thing with this, it has a 10 to 15 minute working time.
So, there we go. Just enough on the back, and then later on, once it's set, we'll go all the way around.
Seal it completely off.
Yep, because if not, you'll most likely get moisture, because usually on the back of the factory housing, it has the rubber grommet. Well, the grommet's not going to completely seal anymore unless you do silicone around, put the grommet in, silicone around it, and seal for the most part. But this will help keep a lot of it out as well.
So your first coat of epoxy, you're not trying to cover the whole hole, you're just trying to get the projector to stay in place. Yes. And then you'll cover the whole hole once it's dry.
We will flip it.
Set it down so it doesn't move. And we'll let them dry. And there's the other one that was already done. Now again, you won't see the back of the projector that I'm showing you right now, the base, because the shroud will cover it. The housings were already done black previously, which you'll see before this video. And that's it for now.
Alright.
So we're gonna finish up these cheap retrofits. Now, you've seen in the earlier video that they're glued in spot. So you can see the old part of the metal, I'm gonna call it part of the shroud. So I'm just gonna take some seam sealer, just cheap automotive seam sealer, and I'm gonna put a bead around the metal itself. Now all I'm doing here is I'm trying to cover it up, trying to give it a cleaner look. You gotta remember that these projectors and shrouds came from the local pick and pull for $10. So we're not really doing a high budget build. It was just something that, going old school, the way it used to be. People used to do this just to get better output. So at the end of the day, no matter what, it's gonna be better than what it was there. Now when it came to the actual parts, we did spend the money on good HIDs, ballasts. We put the money where it counts. So once it's there, I'm gonna grab. Now I do a lot of painting, so I have thinner kicking around. So I'm gonna take some thinner, you can use water, and I'm just gonna take my hand, and I'm just gonna make it more neater. Again, it looks worse than what it is right now, because once the shroud and actual lens cover is on, you won't see it. So this is just to help blend it in. There. Now, I'm going to clean my hand off. And then Jeff is going to work his magic. So, as Jeff was showing you, it's nothing special. It was just to cover up the chrome behind.
Right. Some more JB. We get that shroud on there now from our nice Hyundai Sonata.
So same with the back of the projector. It's going to be JB welded in. I'm sure everyone knows how to mix JB weld, but just in case not, you put the same equal amount on. So he's just making sure it's mixed really well. Now for the shrouds, we did paint them black. I didn't show that in the video, but it was the same concept.
A little bit. Doesn't take much.
So he's just putting some on the inside so it will stick to the projector. So basically we're epoxying in spot.
Just a couple points just to give it some. It's pretty tight fit on there anyways. It stays on with a lot of friction anyways, but always helps just in case eventually it might try to come off. Do this without making a mess is the only problem. Go. Pretty much flush with the front of the projector itself, the holder. You can always adjust it to how you want it. It's all personal preference on that. You either have it more forward, more back, or just trying to have it kind of flush and kind of hides a little bit on the inside as well. Alright. It'll tight. There we go. That's where we want it. So, when that is in, time to work with the butyl and put the lens back on. Usually we do this with, well, usually I at least do it with an oven, but I'm just going to use a heat gun tonight. I'm just going to clean the lens really quickly. Last time before I put not the lens, but the
Projector.
Yeah, the projector before I seal it up. And I'm not getting anything in there.
Now you'll notice that the high beam isn't getting the projector and it's painted. The reasoning behind that is with an HID, I don't think I'll ever use a high beam. So I painted it more for aesthetics.
Now I'm using the Morimoto Retro Rubber for this one just because it's good stuff. It's been developed just for headlights for this reason. You can use the normal butyl tape, but depends on if you want to spend the extra couple more bucks on this stuff or not. You just pretty much stretch it a little bit, so it's gonna lay flat in the channel, at least close to it.
So you're like kneading it and pulling it?
Yeah, just stretching her out a little bit. Stuff's a little sticky and it likes to kind of flex back a little bit. Return to its shape that it was. But the more you work it, the more it will come. Once you heat it up, then it becomes really, really sticky and a little bit harder to work with your hands, but that's kind of the point, is that it sticks. I just want to make sure it's thin enough, but you're going to have enough. You're going to get a proper seal. Some guys heat it up before they start trying to stretch it out. I don't really bother.
More personal preference.
This is the only issue with not heating it up, is it doesn't like to stick where you want it to stretch it in place. So it's coming up in the corner. What we'll do, blast it with the heat gun really quick. You see, it tries to shrink as soon as you heat it up. But it becomes sticky and it will hold in place. Now this top edge is where you want to make sure that you get enough in there for sure, because this is where most of your moisture is going to try to come from. Usually anyways, because you'll go through a car wash or even just washing your car, it's going to want to try to come in through the top. As you can see, trying to come back out. Okay. Blast it really quick. And it will stick. Now these lenses and housings used to be held together with Permaseal, which is great stuff and usually holds up very well, but it is a very big pain to get apart. But that's why it's called Permaseal. It's supposed to be permanent. So as you can see, the housing is a little bit stretched here and there, which isn't going to affect anything as long as you get enough of this in. That's going to make a nice seal in the end. A little bit more. Now a little of this stuff goes a long ways.
So you can see for the most part that we might have went to the junkyard for the projectors and the shroud, but we bought decent product to make the light output that much more better.
Wants to stay. There we go. Stretch out that piece.
You're trying to knead the two pieces together or close to each other. As you see, he took the two joints and kneaded them. That way when the headlight lens gets pushed down, it will push against each other and seal.
So, there's there. For the lens, make sure there's nothing inside. Oh, which we're actually missing our bezel as well. Popped out. So, give it a blast of heat, warm it up some all the way around. Push the lens on. See, not going to be completely ready to go in all the way, but get it started. Oh, it's still a little tacky. Then you just do a little bit at a time, heating it up. Pliers, if you get it hot enough, should just be able to squeeze it together and put the clips back in, where you'll hear the nice pop sometimes. As you can see, that clip there is broken off, which is a common thing for the lenses, but you don't always need them. As long as you get enough butyl in there to seal it up. And just kind of hold it, let it cool off a little bit, and it doesn't like to stretch as badly. Alright, let's start working our way around. Like I said, if you have an oven, it heats up evenly. Then you can push it all together all at once. Pretty much in one go instead of having to go work all the way around. Still the same concept. You still got to make sure all the clips are on and that it's sealed all the way around. As it cools, it becomes a little less stretchy. You can keep just kind of pushing them together slowly. And then you can eventually just leave it and it won't quite come back. Probably went a little bit. Since we can't get right to the butyl, you just kind of heat up the housing and then the heat transfers in through enough. Heats it up and you get rid of the squeeze. Again, you just want to make sure that it's, once you push it together, it levels itself out. Makes a nice seal all the way through. Not bad.
That headlight's done for the front. Here's the one that we already finished. Now you can see that you can't really see the silicone in behind or the seam sealer. See, the lenses aren't the best, so there's a little bit of clear left over from the factory, but you gotta remember these headlights came from the junkyard. They weren't in the best of shape to begin with. So now that you got that done, what's next?
We are going to put on the factory grommets that actually work out pretty well with these. This just will help keep the moisture out. Usually, the back of the low beam looked identical to the back of the high beam, and it had that pattern on it where you screwed it together. A bit of old JB, but they're poking out, but not a big deal. Put that on there. Make sure it's fitted down all the way where you want it. And what we're gonna do, just because it's not sitting quite flush and you got your wire for your demonize coming out, I'm gonna put some nice black silicone right on the back. Just to give it that extra.
You're just sealing up between the rubber and the projector. Seam sealer, caulking, it's all the same. Make sure you get a nice bead. If you stop, make sure you go back onto the bead that you stopped to go forward so it seals it. As you can see.
Just level the root a little bit, just so it looks a little better. Not like anyone's ever gonna see it, but there we go. There's that one. So put our other one in for the low beam, or the high beam, sorry. Just put it on. Take the plate. Screws, which try to avoid losing them in the hole and through the housing, because then good luck fishing it out. Done it before, it sucks. Basically have to redo all the work you just did.
Now the factory headlight bulb will be going back into the high beam spot, keep the moisture out. And we have our HID stuff right here. There's the H11 XP H series.
That's a nice 55K bulb. So pretty much pure white. We're using the 50 watt Morimoto bat. Well, they're listed as 55 watt. They're truly 55 or 50, sorry. Everyone says they'll burn out HIDs quicker and all, but I've never had an issue with that myself. As much as they say. Okay, stuck in the foam, so we will take it at the bottom. I do like these Morimoto bulbs where they are separate from the wiring itself for it.
And he's just putting it into the
Little push and turn. It's locked. It is in.
And here's the setup we're going with. You got the XBT series Bluetooth controller for the Demon Eyes, the igniters, balances, and the relay kit. Now, as you can see, that's how you do retrofits. And you got to remember, again, I think total would be $10 for the shroud and projectors, $10 for a can of spray paint, I had some seam sealer kicking around. I don't recall how much we spent on the actual ballast and stuff, but you can go cheaper if you want it to. We're trying to make it last. Any comments?
No, they look pretty good. I like them.
Any questions, guys? Don't be afraid to ask. If I don't know it, I'll ask Jeff. He's pretty knowledgeable when it comes to this stuff.